Today's story is not just shocking, it's the kind of secret that could be hiding right in your own neighborhood. Stay with me, because what you are about to hear will keep you up at night. Imagine living next door to a woman who smiles at you every morning, but deep inside she is secretly collecting your underwear and doing something terrifying with it. You won't believe what this quiet, innocent-looking woman does behind closed doors with other women's underwear. People in the neighborhood often whispered about Angela, but no one ever really knew her story. She was that type of woman who blended into the background, always smiling softly, always keeping to herself, walking past the other tenants like a breeze. She lived on the third floor of Suncrest Apartments, a faded yellow building in the middle of a busy town. Angela wasn't flashy, loud, or troublesome. She minded her own business, or at least that's what everyone thought. Among the residents were mostly young women, students, office workers, and shop attendants. They loved the affordable rent, close proximity to the city, and the feeling of community. Everyone shared the same laundry room at the basement level. It was an old, dimly lit room with humming machines and a flickering light bulb. Despite its shabby condition, it worked just fine, and most tenants trusted each other enough not to worry about leaving their clothes unattended. But Angela? She was always there. No one paid much attention at first. Maybe they thought she simply loved doing laundry at odd hours, or maybe she was helping someone. Angela always found a way to look helpful, folding clothes neatly, clearing up, even cleaning the dusty laundry shelves. But behind that soft smile was a chilling secret, one that no one would have guessed even in their wildest dreams. Angela had a strange habit, one that even she struggled to explain to herself. It started small, innocent even, or so she convinced herself. A simple piece of lace, a silk strap, or a delicate fabric left unattended on the laundry table. She would simply take it. At first, it was just one or two pieces. They probably forgot about them, she told herself. But soon it became more. And not just forgotten clothes. Angela had mastered the art of sneaking. When no one was watching, she would wait patiently, timing the exact moment someone left the laundry room, and then she would quietly slip their fresh, clean underwear, mostly panties, into her hidden tote bag. Day after day, this became her routine. Angela wasn't poor. She wasn't selling them. She wasn't wearing them either. But what she did with them was something darker. Unknown to the tenants, Angela had transformed one small room in her apartment into something strange. Neatly labeled boxes filled with dozens and dozens of underwear sat stacked like a strange, silent museum. Every box had a name on it: Melissa, Tracy, Sandra, Bola, Anita, and many more. Some were new tenants, some had left years ago, but their underwear stayed, locked away like secrets no one could retrieve. But why? Why was Angela collecting them? That was the question no one dared to ask. Because for now, they didn't even know. Everything seemed normal in Suncrest Apartments until one day when Melissa, a lively university student, noticed something. One of her favorite panties went missing. She didn't think much of it at first. Laundry rooms could be chaotic. Clothes fell behind machines or got mixed up. But when it happened again and again, and then to other girls, whispers started to spread. "Do you think someone is stealing underwear?" Tracy asked during one of their usual late-night talks. Melissa laughed nervously. Who would even do such a thing? It's just underwear. But deep down, they both knew. Something didn't feel right. The tension around Suncrest Apartments started to grow. The laughter and sisterhood that once filled the building began to fade, replaced by side eyes, locked laundry baskets, and paranoia. And through it all, Angela, sweet, quiet Angela, would sit by the window of her small apartment, sipping her tea, watching the world below, knowing fully well what was hidden just behind her closed door. If only they knew what she was really doing with their underwear. What kind of person would secretly collect other women's underwear, and why? That question was now hanging heavily over the residents of Suncrest Apartments. The calm and familiar air around the building was slowly disappearing. The girls, who used to gather by the stairs and chat freely, now whispered nervously behind closed doors. Melissa couldn't sleep. For days, she kept replaying the thought in her head. What if someone is really taking our things? It wasn't just about panties anymore. It was about privacy, about safety, about trust. She tried to brush it off, but then Tracy came knocking on her door one evening. Her face was pale, her lips trembling. Melissa, she said, almost in a whisper. It happened again. My favorite red lace panties. Gone. Melissa's heart dropped. 2 was no longer a coincidence. Something was definitely wrong. They both decided to ask around, quietly, without causing panic. At first, no one wanted to admit it. They giggled nervously or changed the topic. But later that week, Bola, a kind and cheerful young nurse, confessed in private that she too had noticed some of her underwear missing for weeks now. I thought it was me, Bola said, fidgeting with her bracelet. Maybe I misplaced them, but now I know. I'm sure someone is taking them. The news spread like wildfire, but no one had proof. No one had seen anything. The laundry room became a place of fear. Girls stopped leaving their clothes unattended. Some even stopped using it altogether. But Angela? Angela kept moving like a shadow, quiet, unnoticed, helpful even. She still smiled sweetly whenever anyone passed her on the staircase. She still watered the small flowers by the front porch. No one suspected her. In her apartment, Angela sat alone at night, staring at the neatly labeled boxes filled with panties. But here's the twist. Angela wasn't just collecting them. Inside each box, beneath the piles of folded underwear, were journals. Stacks of small brown notebooks filled with handwritten notes. Notes about every single tenant. What time they came home. Who they brought over. What they wore. Where they worked. Their deepest habits. Even personal secrets that no one had shared aloud. Angela had been watching them, documenting them, for years. She wasn't just stealing panties. She was collecting pieces of their lives. But the question still remained. Why? What was she planning? One rainy evening, while most of the tenants were at work or sleeping, Angela quietly entered the laundry room. She moved with ease, knowing every creak of the floorboards, every faulty bulb. She stood there, staring at the clothes spinning inside the machines. Suddenly, Angela heard footsteps. It was Melissa, sneaking in to grab her clothes early. Angela quickly hid behind the old shelves. Melissa, unaware, loaded her basket, humming softly. But just as she turned to leave, she noticed something strange. Behind one of the machines, slightly hidden, was a silk panty, one that didn't belong to her. She picked it up and immediately recognized it as Tracy's. Her heart pounded. Tracy's missing panties? Why is it behind the machine? She whispered to herself. And then, without warning, a small notebook fell from behind the shelf and landed at Melissa's feet. She picked it up cautiously and opened it. The first page read, Melissa enters the laundry room every Friday at 6 p.m. Sometimes forgets to lock her apartment door. Favorite color is blue. Sleeps with her window slightly open. Melissa's knees weakened. It was her. Every detail about her written down in neat handwriting. She flipped through more pages. There were notes about Tracy, Bola, and almost every girl in the apartment. Their routines, their vulnerabilities, even things no one else should know. Melissa's breathing quickened. What is this? But before she could process it, Angela stepped out from behind the shelf. Her smile was gone. Her eyes, once soft and kind, now stared coldly at Melissa. You shouldn't have seen that, Angela whispered. Put it down, Melissa. Angela's voice was calm, but there was something sharp underneath, something cold and dangerous. Melissa froze, gripping the notebook tightly against her chest. Her legs felt like they could give way at any moment. Her mind raced. What is this? How long has she been watching us? What will she do to me now? Angela took a slow step forward. You don't understand. It's not what you think, she said, forcing a soft smile. But Melissa could see through it now. That gentle, motherly face was only a mask. Behind it was someone she didn't recognize. Melissa's instinct screamed at her to run. Without thinking, she darted past Angela, nearly knocking over a pile of baskets, and bolted up the basement stairs. Her heart pounded wildly. The hallway above was dark and empty. She didn't stop until she reached her apartment, slammed the door, and locked it. Melissa sank to the floor, trembling. She could still hear Angela's voice echoing in her head. You shouldn't have seen that. All night, Melissa sat in silence, staring at the small notebook she had snatched before escaping. The pages were filled with creepy details, drawings of floor maps, lists of laundry schedules, even notes like, leaves window open, easy access. Angela had been watching all of them like they were characters in her own twisted story. The next morning, Melissa rushed to tell Tracy and Bola. I swear, I saw it with my own eyes. Angela has been writing about all of us, and it's not just notes, it's everything. Even how to break into our rooms. Tracy's eyes widened. Melissa, are you sure? Angela? Angela who gives us cookies? Angela who helps us carry groceries? Bola crossed her arms nervously. It doesn't make sense. She's been here longer than most of us. Melissa slammed the notebook on the table. Read it for yourself. They went through the pages slowly. Every detail was accurate. Their routines, habits, even small secrets, none of them had ever told anyone. Fear gripped the girls. Their safe apartment building no longer felt safe. The person they trusted the most was the very one preying on them. But why panties? Bola whispered. Why take them? No one had an answer. The three girls debated whether to go straight to the police, but fear held them back. What if Angela denied everything? What if the police thought it was just paranoia? Worse, what if Angela found out they reported her and retaliated? After all, Angela knew everything about them, where they lived, where they worked, when they were alone. For days, the girls avoided Angela, pretending like nothing happened. They started locking every window, double-checking every door. But Angela noticed. She noticed how their smiles faded when they saw her. How their footsteps quickened past her door, how they no longer greeted her. Angela knew, and she wasn't happy. One night, while Melissa was alone, she heard soft knocks on her door. Tap, tap, tap. She held her breath, peeking through the peephole. Angela stood outside, carrying a basket of folded towels and baked cookies. Melissa, dear, Angela called softly. I haven't seen you lately. Are you all right? Melissa stayed silent, refusing to open the door. Angela stood there for a while, smiling softly at the peephole, as if she knew Melissa was watching. Then, without a word, she placed the basket by the door and walked away. Inside, Melissa's heart pounded. She locked every window again, but the sense of fear only grew stronger. The next day, Melissa and the others finally decided they needed evidence. We need to see what's inside her apartment, Melissa said. That's insane, Bola argued. But Tracy agreed. It might be the only way. Without proof, no one will believe us. So they made a plan, one that could easily go wrong. They knew Angela went to church every Wednesday evening like clockwork. She was usually gone for hours, sometimes even stayed behind for choir practice. This would be their only chance. That Wednesday, while Angela was away, Melissa, Tracy, and Bola nervously approached her door. Melissa, who once found Angela so harmless, now struggled to even breathe standing in front of the door. Tracy, whose hands were shaking, used a hairpin to try and unlock it. After several failed attempts, the door creaked open. The girls stepped inside. Angela's apartment was spotless, warm, and welcoming. It smelled like lavender and cinnamon. Family photos lined the walls, soft music played from an old radio, and there were fresh flowers in every corner. It looked normal. But Melissa whispered, "Check the small room at the back." They found it easily. A small door almost hidden behind a bookshelf. They pushed it open, and what they saw made them all gasp. The room was filled with boxes, hundreds of them, stacked up to the ceiling. Each box labeled with a name. Each box filled with underwear. But that wasn't all. Pinned to the walls were photos of the tenants, candid pictures taken without them knowing. Some were laughing, some were sleeping, some even in their own rooms. There were detailed maps of the building, sketches of each apartment, and notes about every tenant's routines. On one corner of the room was a smaller table. On it, under a glass cover, was something even worse, house keys, dozens of them. Tracy covered her mouth in horror. "She has our keys." Bola fell to her knees. She's been inside our apartments." Melissa's legs weakened. The reality hit them hard. Angela hadn't just been watching them. She had access to their private lives, their homes, their rooms, even while they slept. Suddenly, a noise echoed from the living room, the sound of the front door closing. Melissa turned pale. "She's back." Angela's voice floated through the apartment like a breeze. "Why are you in my house?" The room fell silent. The only sound was the girls' heavy breathing. Melissa, Tracy, and Bola stared at each other, frozen like statues. Angela was supposed to be at church. Why was she back? Angela's soft footsteps echoed as she walked slowly toward the small room where the girls were hiding. "You shouldn't have come here," her voice called out calmly, but it sent shivers down their spines. "You were doing so well, staying away." Melissa's heartbeat was so loud it almost drowned out the footsteps. Tracy whispered, "We have to run." But before they could even make a move, Angela appeared at the door, blocking it entirely. The soft old woman they thought they knew was gone. Her eyes were sharp, cold, and focused. The corners of her lips curved into a faint smile. "No need to panic, girls," she said gently. "I'm sure we can talk about this." "No, Angela!" Melissa shouted. "Stay away from us." Angela chuckled softly, stepping fully into the room. "You girls, always so curious. I told myself you'd never find out, but look at you now." Tracy grabbed Bola's hand. "Move," she cried, pushing past Angela, but Angela didn't flinch. Instead, she calmly stepped aside, letting them all run past her like it was part of her plan. The girls sprinted out of the apartment and down the stairs, barely stopping to breathe. As they reached outside, the cold night air hit them like a slap. They didn't look back. They ran straight to the nearest police station. In the station, they showed the notebook, described the room, the boxes, the keys, the photos, everything. But then came the biggest shock of all. When the police arrived at Angela's apartment, everything was gone. The room? Empty. The boxes? Vanished. The photos? Now just blank walls. Not a single piece of evidence remained. Angela stood there, calm as ever, speaking to the officers like she was the real victim. "Officers," she said with a warm laugh, "I think the girls have been watching too many movies." Melissa, Tracy, and Bola were speechless. They pleaded with the police, but it was useless. No one could find even a single piece of underwear, photo, or notebook. Even the creepy notes Angela wrote were gone. When the police left, Angela stood at her doorstep, waving goodbye with that same unsettling smile. Melissa could barely stand. She knew the truth. They had all seen it. But Angela had somehow wiped it all away like magic, except this wasn't magic. Angela was just smarter, more calculated than they could ever imagine. From that day on, things changed. Angela didn't hide anymore. She became friendlier, always offering help, greeting them cheerfully, sending them gifts. It was as if nothing happened. But the girls knew. They saw it in her eyes. Angela was warning them. "I'm watching you." Melissa, Bola, and Tracy locked themselves in their apartments most nights. They barely spoke to anyone else. But the worst part was, underwear still kept disappearing. One by one, the other tenants started whispering about missing items again. "Weird," someone would say. "I swear my red lace panties are gone." "I think I'm just forgetful," another would joke. But Melissa knew. Tracy knew. Bola knew. Angela was still at it, and they were powerless. One evening, as Melissa sat alone in her apartment, she got a strange envelope slipped under her door. No stamp, no name, just a folded note. It read, "It's not just you three, it's all of them, and soon they will know." Melissa's hands trembled. Who sent it? Was it Angela or someone else? And what did "soon they will know" mean? Melissa gathered Tracy and Bola immediately. They sat huddled around the note. "What does she mean?" Bola whispered. "Is she planning something worse?" Tracy added. Melissa stared blankly at the words. If Angela had erased all the evidence once, what else was she hiding? And what if this wasn't about underwear anymore? Just then, they noticed something more chilling. Written faintly behind the note, like a watermark, was a drawing of their apartment building. But this time, every apartment door had an X marked on it, except theirs. Only Melissa, Tracy, and Bola's apartments were marked with circles. Bola burst into tears. What does it mean? Why just us? Suddenly, they heard it again. Tap, tap, tap. This time, the knock wasn't on the door. It came from the window. They turned their heads slowly. Angela was standing outside, smiling, waving softly, in the middle of the night, 8 floors up, where no one should have been. The girls froze. The air felt heavy as their eyes locked on Angela's face, pressed against the glass, 8 floors high without any balcony or ledge. Bola screamed. Melissa grabbed the curtains and yanked them shut. Tracy collapsed onto the floor, shaking. What is going on?" Bola cried, pacing the room. "She's playing with us," Melissa whispered, trying to catch her breath. "This is beyond just stealing underwear. Angela is sending a message." For hours, they sat there, staring at the door, the windows, every shadow in the room. Morning came, but sleep never did. The next day, the apartment complex buzzed with news. One of the tenants, Caroline, was missing. She never showed up for work and wasn't answering calls. The police were called again. They checked Angela's apartment but found nothing as usual. Angela even served the police tea. She was too calm, too friendly. Melissa knew it. Angela was hiding something much darker. But what? That evening, the girls made a decision. They couldn't wait for the police. They had to do something themselves. Tracy remembered Caroline's boyfriend was a technician. They reached out to him secretly and asked for a favor. "Can you hack the building's security cameras?" Melissa pleaded. "We know it's dangerous, but we have to know what Angela is doing." Reluctantly, he agreed. 2 nights later, they gathered in Melissa's living room, eyes glued to the computer screen. Tracy's hands trembled as she clicked through the footage. For hours, nothing. Just Angela walking in and out like any normal neighbor. Then it happened. At exactly 2:13 a.m., Angela appeared on camera carrying a large black plastic bag, dragging it behind her. But it wasn't just Angela. She wasn't alone. Behind her were piles of clothes, underwear, jewelry, shoes, and dozens of small personal items from different women in the building, all laid out on the floor of a hidden basement. There was another woman tied up. It was Caroline. Melissa gasped. "She's alive!" Angela calmly organized the women's underwear into neat rows on shelves like a collector. Then she knelt beside Caroline, whispering something into her ear before walking away, leaving Caroline in the dark. "What is this?" Bola sobbed. "It's a shrine," Tracy whispered. "She's obsessed." The girls called the police immediately, sending them the footage. This time, there was no way Angela could talk her way out of it. The police raided Angela's apartment again, but still, the basement was gone. The floor seemed solid. It was like it never existed. That night, heartbroken and frustrated, the girls returned to Melissa's apartment. At 3 a.m., there was another envelope under their door. Inside was a note. "You're too late. I always win." And beneath it, a small golden key. Melissa stared at it. "Where have we seen this before?" she murmured. Then it hit her. The laundry room. Earlier, Angela always avoided the laundry room when anyone was around, even though it was open to all residents. Without wasting time, the girls rushed to the basement-level laundry room. They searched every corner until Tracy noticed a tiny keyhole hidden behind an old washing machine. Melissa inserted the key. Click. The wall creaked open like a hidden door. What they saw inside made their legs go weak. Rows upon rows of shelves, packed with the stolen underwear, bags, clothes, and personal items of dozens of women who had lived there over the years. At the center was Caroline, alive but weak, tied to a chair. But that wasn't all. There were photos of other missing women, women no one even talked about anymore. Posters, IDs, and even old newspaper clippings about women who had gone missing years ago, all linked back to the apartment complex. Angela wasn't just collecting, she was taking them. Suddenly, they heard footsteps behind them. Angela stood at the doorway, holding a sharp knitting needle. "I told you not to get involved," she said coldly. "But you never listen." For the first time, Angela dropped the kind old lady act. Her voice was low, threatening, her eyes wild. "It's not just about the underwear. It's about remembering them, honoring them. I keep them close. Always." Melissa, Tracy, and Bola stood between Angela and Caroline, hearts pounding. Angela stepped closer. Tracy screamed. Angela lunged. But just then, the police stormed in behind her, guns drawn. Angela turned slowly, unfazed. "They'll never understand," she whispered. "But you girls, you were special." The officers handcuffed Angela, dragging her out as she mumbled to herself. Caroline was rescued. The hidden room was exposed, and as they checked the shelves, they uncovered the chilling truth. Angela had been doing this for over 20 years. Dozens of women, most of them listed as missing, were all connected to the same apartment building. Angela had kept every personal item like a twisted memorial. News reporters flooded the neighborhood. Residents were horrified. Families of missing women came forward. Melissa, Tracy, and Bola became local heroes for uncovering it all. But even after Angela was locked away, Melissa could never sleep peacefully again. She often woke up sweating, thinking about Angela's last words. "You girls were special." And on the night of Angela's sentencing, as Melissa sat alone in her apartment, she found another note slipped under her door. It read, "I'm still watching." And on the floor beside it, folded neatly, was a pair of Melissa's missing panties.